Satya. Hey, Satya, how are you doing?
I'm good. Somehow the link was not working. I kept waiting. Sorry about that. I was 15 minutes early, but still,
Oh,
I thought that it
seriously?
would just let me in. Yeah, then I think they sent a new link and that seems to work.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Hank is amazing like that. Hank is our director, producer, sound guy, cable guy extraordinaire in the background. He's actually clicking together all the video streams that we have tonight, and it's happening from my home actually. I've got a sick kid at home, and the Netherlands is actually in a partial lockdown at the moment, so I can't go out the door when one of my kids is sick. So um, this is from my attic, from my home office. And where are you located at the moment, Satya?
San Diego,
Oh,
California.
nice. Also working from home?
Well, I have a I have an office which is like 5 minutes from home. So yeah, it's almost like home.
It feels like home sometimes.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Awesome to have you. So, for those who don't know Satya, could you introduce yourself to the community?
Sure. So I am the CEO of OpenCV.org. It is the foundation that actually maintains the OpenCV library. And as most people probably know, that OpenCV is the largest computer vision library in the world, and for traditional computer vision algorithms. And I'm also the CEO of OpenCV.ai, which is the for-profit arm for OpenCV.
Sounds awesome. And how long have you actually been working with OpenCV?
For a little over a year, I joined as the CEO of OpenCV a little over a year. Dr. Gary Bradsky, who's the founder of OpenCV, he asked me to join, and then we decided. It took a few years. The first time he asked me, I was not ready because things were going on. And last year I decided, yes, I have a clear vision now on where the foundation should go.
Cool. Oh, that sounds really awesome. So, I know for a fact that OpenCV has been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a really long time in software land. And I can imagine that there's a lot of new stuff that you can talk about. So, whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen and show us your awesome keynote.
Sure. So just before I share that, OpenCV library, like in the keynote, I'm going to talk about, how OpenCV has grown beyond the OpenCV library. And one of the things, the main thing today would be OpenCV AI Kit. That's what I'm going to talk about and show what you can do with it.
Cool.
So let's, okay. Are you guys able to see my
Absolutely.
screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so the talk is about OpenCV AI Kit. Now, just to get you guys all excited about this talk, I want to first talk about our amazing Kickstarter campaign. So to launch this OpenCV AI Kit, which is essentially a smart camera which can do depth estimation as well. We launched a Kickstarter campaign a few months earlier, and it was the biggest Kickstarter campaign in the history of smart cameras. So we raised $1.35 million with the help of 6,500 backers. So we have a very strong community that is helping us with this camera. So with that, now you would be curious to know what is so special about the smart camera. Why did so many people get excited about this camera? And that is what this talk is about. So until now, we have thought about OpenCV as the library. Whenever you talk about OpenCV, it is always about the OpenCV library. But now we are growing beyond the library. Now we have an ecosystem of things. We think of OpenCV as a brand, and we want to serve the community by providing various services. Library is still the key thing we do, but we also provide courses, we provide hardware, software, we provide community support, and very soon we will also launch a store where people will be able to buy computer vision hardware, software, and services. So we want OpenCV brand to include anything. If you think about any resources you need for computer vision for your project or for your company, you should think about the OpenCV brand. That's where we are moving things. So now that brings us to OpenCV AI Kit. It is a family of edge computing solution, edge AI solutions. And we'll see in a little bit what that means. Edge AI is basically the opposite of cloud AI. In the cloud, we can have GPUs and we can have all the processing power we need. There are no power constraints usually. So we can deploy this very heavy duty solutions which work very well, but they require this cloud resource and they require connectivity. So the other option is to go and do all these things on the edge, on the device where the picture is being taken, not upload anything to the cloud. So why would you do edge AI? The first thing is speed. In a lot of applications, for example, if you're doing sports analytics, things are moving so fast that you have no option but to do the analysis on the device in real time. The second thing is that even though 5G is very hot these days, connectivity is still a very big problem in a lot of places, especially connectivity which can help you upload videos and get them back in good real time. So we need to do this processing on the edge. And then we have privacy concerns also. Imagine that you have a Roomba which is using a camera. You don't want that picture to go out and be processed on the cloud. It is sometimes okay that that camera is processing on the device and you're guaranteed that the images are not going out. So there is a privacy concern because of which people may want to do the processing on the device itself. And finally, it's the cost. It is hugely expensive to do the processing on the cloud. People know, what is the cost of AWS. It starts out easy and then it blows up very quickly. So there are several challenges in deploying an edge solution. First of all, we are resource constrained. The memory as well as the processing is often constrained. The electrical power consumption is often constrained as well. Some of these devices could be running on batteries and we don't then want to drain out the batteries. And finally, the form factor is crucial. They have to be small. So we started out with a mission to democratize edge AI the way Raspberry Pi democratized edge computing. That's a very big goal given the popularity of Raspberry Pi. But I think that with Oak, we have taken a step in the right direction. We have come up with two versions of OpenCV AI Kit. The first one is called Oak One. It is a smart camera which can do neural computing on the device. And the second one is called Oak D, D for depth. It can do everything that Oak One can do, but also depth estimation. So let's look into Oak One. What can it do? It's tiny, it's powerful. If you look at existing solutions on how people today use neural accelerators in their solution, this is a standard configuration. You have a camera that is connected to a host like a Raspberry Pi, and you have an AI processor plugged in like a Movidius neural compute stick. The problem with this approach is that the camera records the frame, and then it moves into the Raspberry Pi, and then that frame goes into the neural compute stick. So the path is pretty long, and when you're trying to do something at 60 frames a second, it becomes very difficult to maintain sync. For example, with this configuration, if you run tiny YOLO, you will probably get about 8 frames a second. So what we did was we combined the 4K camera and the AI processor into a single unit, which we call Oak One. And object detection on Oak One is 8 times faster than the configuration that I showed here. even though the processor inside Movidius is exactly the same as the processor inside Oak One, but we get 8x speed up. A part of it is our software stack also, but a big part is that this is not the right configuration we should be working on. The camera should be connected to the neural compute stick or to the processor through a very very good connection, very fast connection. The other thing we wanted to have with Oak One is that it has to be tiny, and you can see as compared to a quarter, what is the size of this? It's really tiny. It is smaller than a AA battery, so the height is smaller than a AA battery. So it's some amazing product for an edge device. Now let's go on to OAK-D. And OAK-D is inspired by human vision because if you look at how our eyes work, they have two functions. The first thing is they tell us what's in the scene, what are we looking at? And the second one is how far is it from? It also does depth perception, and that's why we have stereo vision. And that was the whole objective of OAK-D. So OAK-D consists of a 4K camera, a high resolution camera, a depth camera. So there are two cameras which serve as the stereo pair, and we have the AI processor. If you combine all these things, if you look at the cost itself, first, forget about synchronizing the frames, which is in itself a big problem when you use a configuration like this. But the cost itself is so big compared to Oak. It is one compact solution that we have come up with. So when I say, you can do neural inference on any of these devices, Oak One and OAK-D, these are the kinds of things you can do. You can run any object detector, which is supported by OpenVINO. For example, MobileNet, SSD V2, TinyYOLO, etc. And these models will come prepackaged with the Oak solution. And I'll show a little video where you'll see how easy it is to get started once you have the device in your hand. You can also do face detection. Our devices will ship with these models where you can do a lot of face applications like face detection, facial landmark detection, expression estimation, age estimation, pose estimation, etc. So we not only support the hardware, it's not just, take this hardware and figure out how to do it. We also help you build applications using prepackaged models. Another one is vehicle detection and also license plate detector. So all of these models will come prepackaged. You don't have to do anything. You plug in the device and it is ready to go. Here's another example of pedestrian detection. Also comes with the device. Text detection. Now, if you combine neural inference with depth, it starts mimicking human vision. Now, let's see an example of how it works. In this example, you're looking at neural inference plus depth perception. The output you're looking at is a depth map. Blue means things are farther away, and yellow or red means things are closer. So you can see that we are not only saying what this object is. I'm not sure whether it is very clearly visible, but this object has been identified as a chair, and this person has been identified as a person. But not only that, we are also saying that this chair is 3 meters away. So it's pretty much mimics human vision. Now, given this capability, all neural inference tasks, they get an extra dimension. We are literally adding a new dimension to the solution space. For example, pose estimation. Pose estimation is interesting. It tells you where some of the body parts are located. But when you combine it with depth estimate, we get 3D pose estimation. We know, where the eyes, nose are located in 3D. So it becomes a very powerful device. Similarly, if you look at the problem of semantic segmentation, semantic segmentation means that you are trying to find all pixels that belong to an object. So here, this whole, all the orange pixels belong to the chair, all the pink pixels belong to the sofa, and all the green pixels belong to the television. Now, the question is, with depth information, the quality of semantic segmentation goes high up, because whenever there is ambiguity, you can resolve it using the depth estimate. You can know that the chair cannot be so long. And so you can resolve ambiguities using depth, and it can give a very high quality solution. But you can be very creative also. Now, I told you that there is a camera, there is an RGB camera on which we do neural inference, and then we have the depth camera on which we estimate depth. But we have configured Oak so that you can actually run neural networks on the two stereo cameras as well. So you can run a neural network on the left camera and the right camera at the same time in real time, and then combine the information to do stereo neural inference. For example, you can detect face in both the two frames coming from the left and the right camera, and then do the triangulation to figure out where the face is, what the depth of the face is. Now, this is interesting because some objects, like very shiny objects, they don't do very well with stereo algorithms, right? But you can still detect them using a neural network, and then you get approximate depth information. It's not very accurate, but it is approximate, and that may be sufficient for your task. So you can see in this example, we are running a neural network on two frames, one coming from the left camera and one coming from the right camera at the same time, and it's at 30 frames a second. If you look very carefully, we are also detecting facial landmarks in addition to the face itself. And all this is happening at 30 frames a second. So it's a very powerful device. Now, I've been focusing on the capabilities of Oak, the two capabilities of Oak, which is neural inference and depth perception. But the power actually lies in all the other things, which are not as cool to talk about. But when you're building an application, there are so many things that this device does on the device. For example, if you're working with 4K cameras, you can encode the 4K video on the device itself. So that's great. If you're using a robotic application, you can detect April tags. And this is being done on the device. Your host, like the Raspberry Pi, is never being used at all. And similarly, you can do feature tracking, and you can warp or dewarp images that are coming out of the camera. And so the capabilities of Oak are far beyond what most smart cameras are able to do. And this is possible because of the architecture we have chosen. So let's go over what the architecture looks like. Inside Oak, the brain of Oak is Intel's Myriad X chip. And this chip is so powerful, it can do 4 trillion operations per second. And it has built-in capability for accelerating stereo, as well as warping, dewarping, April tags, etc. We have been able to implement all those things on this device so that things are hardware accelerated. So I'm sometimes surprised, it almost feels like we are living in the future. This is, if you look at this device, it is this is the tip of a pencil, and this is such a tiny, powerful device. Our cameras, these are 12 megapixel cameras on both versions of Oak, and they can run at a maximum speed of 60 frames a second. We also have a stereo camera, which is a slightly lower resolution at 1280 by 800, but this can run at 120 frames a second. And just to give you an idea, we have been focusing so much on the speed, how easily developers can start using this. that we created this video, how easy it is to get started. So you take the device. So I'm not sure whether you're able to hear the sound. Probably not. So, okay. So what's happening is that we just plugged in the device, we copy pasted some code, and here you go. Within 30 seconds, you have a demo app running. So you plug this device onto your computer or a Raspberry Pi, and within 30 seconds, you have a demo up and running. So that was our goal. You know, you shouldn't be spending half a day when you get a new hardware. That's what happens these days. You know, they're not very user-friendly. The other thing is you can obviously program it the way you like using Python, but we also built a visual compute pipeline so that if you want to build a solution without needing to code, you can build a visual pipeline using different models. So suppose you want the neural network to first do face detection. You can run the face detection first, and then you can configure this visual pipeline builder so that the next step is facial landmark detector. So it loads the facial landmark detector and does processing. And with very little or almost no coding, you will be able to use this device. And like I said, that we are not just selling a hardware, we are nurturing a community. And we want to make sure that everybody who is a beginner in AI, they are taken care of. We just don't sell you the hardware and just go away. So for that, we are giving away free courses, which will help you get started. Even if you want to build your own, let's say classifier, our course will teach you how to train your model and then optimize it and get it on the device. In addition to all the 20, we also provide 20 free models that you can use with the device. We will also have a community forum. We have a large community now, about 6,500 developers have signed up for Oak. So we will have a forum where our developers will support the community, but you can also do other community stuff, right? You can ask questions to other community members, network, etc. And finally, we are creating a model marketplace where we will put the 20 models, which will be free for the community, but it will also be for the community to, other people in the community can also upload their own models so that other people can try it out. And you don't have to download any code to get started with this model marketplace, because we will wrap all the models as a web API. So you go to a web page, you upload a picture, and you can see what the model does without having to download any code. This is like a service to the community members so that they can try out different models and see what works for them. And then they can obviously download it to their device and work with them. So the final thing is that Oak is being used by a lot of companies. Unfortunately, we don't have permission to use their names. So I'm just telling what they do. We have been certified, FCC and CE certification we have received. So it is industrial, good to go solution. There are companies who are using us for visual assistance. They are creating smart glasses for the visually impaired people. It's being used in aerial drones, and one company is using it in sub-sea drones as well. So these drones go inside the ocean. And then there are e-scooter companies, cargo handling companies, sports monitoring, smart agriculture, safety, and security. One company is using it for gun detection in schools, thank God. And then one satellite company is using it as one of its sensor as well. So the community is growing. We want new developers, but I'm also so glad to see that companies which are building industrial products are also looking at Oak as the solution. The Oak, even though the Kickstarter campaign is over, you can actually pre-order. I have given the link here, but you can also search Kickstarter OpenCV AI Kit, and you will land on this page. And there is a pre-order button that you can use. You won't receive the the cameras instantly. There is a wait time, and because of that, we are also giving it out for a heavily discounted price. These prices are not the same as Kickstarter prices, but they are not anywhere close to the retail price. So that's about it. I mean, I was 7 minutes late to the meeting, but I think I just finished 2 minutes late.
Yeah, and we had a chat at the beginning, so it's awesome. I have to say, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
By the device that you're working on, and we actually got a ton of questions from the community. So
okay, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, so I will group together a few so we have a topic to talk about. So actually, Stefano is also joining us, I believe, for a bit of a discussion about your session. So let me get started with the first question. A lot of people are wondering, how do I actually get a custom model loaded on the device? Do I have to use SSH, or how does that work?
So we have scripts which will just take the model from your drive, from your laptop, the host, and put it on the device. And we also have the pipeline builder, which you can use to specify, this is the location of the model loaded on the device. And so you can load multiple models on the device as long as the memory permits, so that you get you can chain them, run this model and then run this model. As long as the memory permits, we can do that.
That sounds really awesome. And also the visual pipeline, I guess you don't need any experience in development to get going with this device.
Yeah, as long as you're familiar with computers and can run a little bit some scripts, etc. You don't really need AI experience.
Oh, that's really cool. That's great stuff, and it's good to know for people. The other question that we have from people in the audience is, so you mentioned several standard-made models. One of them is the license plate detection. Does it actually recognize what's on the license plate, so the numbers and characters?
Yeah. So the model that we will release before the end of the year, it will not only detect the license plate, it will also detect what's inside the license plate.
And then how many countries does that work actually? Because I can imagine that it's different for.
Yeah, so it will be based on the OpenVINO model that's already out there. So I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many countries it works on.
That's actually pretty cool that you took open source models instead of rolling your own. So if people are interested in what a model can do, just go to the repository of the original model, and it will actually show you what's capable, what that model is capable of, I guess. So my question would then be, what sort of models do you run?
There are some models. Say that again. Sorry.
What sort of models can you run? Does it run, for example, Onyx models or stuff like that?
So if you have an Onyx model, you can convert it and it will run on the device. Any OpenVINO model, if you go to OpenVINO Model Zoo, any of those will work, and any Onyx model can be converted. But sometimes they come up with some custom layers with other platforms which are new. Then it will take some time. But as long as it is an Onyx format, it can be done.
That's really awesome. So Alicia, I guess you're into this whole VR thing. What do you think of this kind of device?
Well, it's kind of interesting you talked about the size, but what about the weight? And these have to be pretty small devices. And I see all the use cases for drone usage, and I know that so I've done some MERM programming, and I know you need the stereo. You need 2 cameras for depth perception and for calculation when you're controlling robotics. So it's really exciting to see now what's possible with respect to controlling robotics in addition to controlling the drones with these cameras. So
yeah, the possibilities are so big. I mean, some of the applications we were not even thinking about. One of them is cargo, inside when you're packing trucks with cargo, they want to make sure that there is nothing inside. Sometimes they want to know that state that, oh, it is completely empty, which is very difficult to do with depth alone, right? But if you add neural compute, then it's a trivial problem to. So both those things, really people don't have both those solutions together right now. They have either a depth solution, and it works great whenever depth is sufficient, or they have a neural inference solution, which is also great, but really there is no solution which combines both of them together in one nice package.
And it's nice indeed. It's very small also.
Yeah. So small, and the weight is not very much. Unfortunately, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's really lightweight. I mean, almost like a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, that would be the weight. If you hold a Raspberry Pi, this is about the same. And we also came up with an aluminum package. The new version, as part of the Kickstarter campaign, we promised that we will produce a packaging around it. And the aluminum actually serves as the heat sink as well. So it further reduces the size because the heat sink was the big part of the solution.
But, next thing you know, we're going to be able to teach our drones how to play catch, right? Because now they have the stereo vision and they can do those things.
Right? Yeah, it's really interesting. It's surprising how small these devices are becoming. So Stefano is one of the people that's actually been using the HoloLens, and maybe I can ask you a question, Stefano. What is actually the importance of these hardware devices that we've been talking about, like the Oak device, the specialized chips?
Yes, hi everybody. And well, first of all, thanks for hosting me. It's a great pleasure to be here and to hear from Satya about these amazing devices. I'm very fan of combining hardware and the power of cloud and edge for artificial intelligence. So you ask about HoloLens, and I must say, despite being a big Microsoft fan, HoloLens is, yes, a great device, but it comes without weight. It's not that lightweight. So you need to wear it for a long time. Not very comfortable. Doesn't have a very long battery autonomy. I will show you something during my session. It's a great device. It's not just a camera, obviously. You can do a lot of things on augmented reality. I really welcome the development in this field. These small cameras that can be that you can wear, and they can ideally have a longer battery duration that you can last a full day.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of developments the last few years in that department. We've seen neural networks on a chip, actually. I guess Oak is sort of similar to that, right?
Yeah.
So
it uses Myriad-X. Myriad-X is Intel's vision processing unit, and it runs neural networks. But it also does these other things which other companies don't utilize. It, for example, has stereo capability, which it can run on the device, and things like that, which we utilized, but normally people don't. So yes, it runs neural network on this tiny chip, which is almost the size of the tip of a pencil.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff. So we've got a number of people actually coming up with solutions to build using this OpenCV camera. So I guess we will see a lot more about that soon in December, around Christmas, I guess. So just to give you a few ideas, and maybe we can have a discussion about them. There's someone asking, could I use this device not only for emotion detection, like smiling, disgust, surprise, but also for interaction between two people, hugging, affectionate responses, those kind of things, making eye contact? What do you think, Satya?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because it is exactly that kind of thing. And hugging, I mean, it's almost opposite of what we want these days. So it's a very good application for social distancing. So when we did a competition for, spatial AI competition, which was sponsored by Intel, a lot of applicants had suggested solutions for social distancing, because it has depth perception. You can calculate the distance between people and do social distancing as well. And yes, you can use the neural inference to figure out the location of the people in the image, and then you can use depth and figure out the distance between them. So yes, those kinds of things are very much possible.
Very cool. So I guess this person will be working on his hobby project the next few months, trying to figure out how to put this together exactly. And so if you're watching, I don't know who asked the question. They don't tell me, but and if you're building this actual model for us, please come by the global AI community and show us how you did it. That's the sort of stuff that we're looking for. The fun projects in AI, especially now, given the situation around COVID. That I mean, you can't have enough fun, I guess, during the weekend. So
I feel a challenge coming on. Do we have a AI development kit challenge that we could build into January's AI bootcamp?
Well, I'm going to look.
I think that might be fun, Willem.
I'm going to look at Satya for a few seconds and with my great puppy eyes and ask him, can we have a chat about that and maybe fix something up? Because that sounds like exactly the sort of challenge that the global AI community is capable of completing.
Actually, there is another challenge coming. So our spatial AI competition is coming to an end. There were two phases. First of all, we selected 32 people from about 235 people who had submitted the application. And those 32, they actually got the OpenCV AI kit, and they are building a solution using that. And they will submit their final solutions by October 30th, and then we will declare the winners. And Intel was so impressed with the response that we got that we are actually working on a bigger challenge with other companies involved also. I cannot talk a lot about this, but there are more challenges coming from where OpenCV AI kit would be involved.
Very, very cool. So if people are interested in that, I guess they can go to the OpenCV website and sign up for that.
And one other thing I forgot to mention is that Microsoft was also very generous in supporting us with every OpenCV AI kit. The people who purchased it through the Kickstarter campaign, they also get 50 hours of free GPU time so that they can train their model and then bring it to the device through the Azure platform. So I just wanted to, thank them publicly here one more time.
That's really, really cool that they do that. Training neural networks on a CPU is not going to be fun. And not everybody has the money to buy a GPU. So I guess if you're low on budget, then and you bought this camera, that's a great addition to the package. That's really amazing.
I also like the fact that when you're doing something really good, we have always focused on AI for good, that companies come together. Intel is sponsoring the competition. Microsoft is giving free GPU hours. So all these different companies, right, they are coming together because they know that we are serving the community. And that's something that I really like. There is such a big developer community, 6,500, that it's substantial. People will come up with new ideas and make this platform really successful. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, sounds good. So talking about AI for good, we've talked about edge devices. I guess HoloLens is the same, occasionally connected. We've got somebody wondering about privacy. So how does it help privacy-wise to have offline models?
Oh, that's a big deal. So privacy, you can actually, if you are building a solution, you can come to us and we will build a camera for you, which the firmware locks the fact it will never let an image go out of the camera, right? That can be guaranteed by in the firmware. So now you can do all the processing and only give out the meta information. For example, in case of say, let's say a gun shooting application, you don't want to send images again and again. You just want to send the metadata that, okay, there is, a shooter in the scene and they are located at this location, right? And that's enough. You don't need a very heavy network connection, and the privacy is also maintained, because most of the time, let's say in a school situation, you don't want kids' pictures to be uploaded to a cloud or anything. You just want the meta information to go out. And this works beautifully, because only when there is like a shooter situation would that information be conveyed to law enforcement, and only the location, where is the shooter located in the scene, instead of hurting the privacy of the teachers as well as the students.
Yeah. And so, Stefano, you've been working with AI a lot in your work. Do you run into these kind of privacy issues a lot in your daily work?
It is a concern, yes. I echo what Satya is saying. There is a concern of storing this information. There is a concern of detecting, because this information, this technology can be used to detect face of people, and it can be used for good purposes. Obviously, you don't know how it can be used. Now, there is a very interesting evolution of face detection, which is also a combination with sort of blockchain and digital ledger. Is a technology called photo DNA that Microsoft has developed some time ago, where you actually take an imprint of the image and create a hash value, which is a unique signature that can be used for detecting faces over and over time, but without actually being able to reconstruct the face, and therefore cannot be used if data leaks, cannot be used to go back to the identity of the person. So it's like you take a signature of your face that has unique landmarks and attributes, and then you store only the signature, and that signature can be used to detect that face somewhere else, but it cannot be used to rebuild the identity. So there are ways of protecting your privacy. It's all about using technology in the right way. And I love that you mentioned AI for good. It's one of the foundation of creating ethical AI, so that there are some principles, some guidelines that can be used to make sure that artificial intelligence is this big power, but used in a sensitive and human way.
Yeah, sounds really good that those devices, on the one hand, offer you ways of using less bandwidth to project results back to a server or another part of your solution, and at the same time protect your privacy. I think this is one of the major steps that we're making as a community in 2020 and beyond, thinking about how much data are we actually using to reduce the carbon footprint, and on the other hand, how do we protect users against abuse by AI? And it sounds really great that it works for OpenCV cameras and as well for the HoloLens. So I've got
also there is
go ahead.
The AI for good. The very first when we did the competition, we received so many applicants who built visual assistance devices. And one of the applicants was Mark Milencio, who was shot in the head back in the year 2003, and he lost his vision. And he now runs a company with 200 people, and he's building visual assistance device. And I was so glad that his solution required a sonar for distance measurement, but that was very heavy, and they replaced that sonar with oak, and that made my day.
Wow.
That was such a powerful story. It just blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, if you could replace a several pound weighing device with such a small camera, and it's a lot cheaper too. Sonar is very expensive to run.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds really cool. So we've got a bunch more questions from the audience, Alicia. It involves Raspberry Pis, I have to say. A lot of people are wondering So could I connect this device up to a Raspberry Pi and build a larger solution around it? Is that possible at all?
Yeah, so this device is supposed to be connected to a host like a Raspberry Pi. And Raspberry Pi is what we expect people to be connecting it to. And one other thing I forgot to mention while I was mentioning that it is 8 times faster than if you run this thing, if you run a neural compute stick with a Raspberry Pi. In that solution, the Raspberry Pi processor is completely engaged. It goes to 100%. In our solution, even though it is 8 times faster, Raspberry Pi is not, it is at 1%, 2%. So the Raspberry Pi itself is free to be used.
So you can run other things on there, like a small HTTP service or an application that actually combines maybe several cameras together. I mean, the sky is the limit in this case. Oh,
you can also
really
combine
cool.
multiple Oak devices to the same Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Another cool question that people have. So we're giving away an Oculus Quest 2 today, and people are really into the whole VR scene and AR scene. I guess that's because we have a lot of speakers around that today as well. Stefano is going to talk about HoloLens. We've got other people talking about VR. So people are wondering, is the Oak camera powerful enough to connect it to an AR VR headset, actually? Is that at all possible? I don't know. I've never worked with one before.
I don't know, actually. I don't know the answer to that. It depends on the operating system. Anything that supports OpenVINO as the host, any host that supports OpenVINO, Oak can be connected to it. So I don't know what headsets actually, support OpenVINO.
But I guess we could of course connect the Oak device to a Raspberry Pi and then use a network connection to talk to the VR headset. That works.
Yes.
Either way.
Yes.
Yeah. I will be slower, I guess. Than connecting it
no,
directly.
because you're only getting metadata out of it. You don't need to send the image. You're using the Oak camera as a sensor. You're getting metadata out of it, not really the image. If that's yeah.
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, even on the network, it will be really fast.
Yeah, and so, and I guess this will be my I don't know if we got more questions. We've got a ton of questions coming in, but one of the interesting things that I've seen is that so with all the VR, people are combining VR with AI a lot. What do you think? Are they essential to put together, or what's going on actually with AI and VR?
I'll give you one example where it's used in the opposite way, where AR is helping AR and VR. They are helping AI, and that's in the training process. In a lot of cases, you cannot produce enough data from real world. There could be privacy concerns, but you can simulate that data, right? Either fully, it is fully virtual, or it could be half virtual and half real kind of scenarios. The simplest application, it's not even VR, but a simplest application would be text recognition. So we did a project where we did text recognition on ID cards. And obviously, we did not have as many passports and things like that. And the company that we were working for did not want to give us, obviously. So we simulated that data using, different backgrounds, different lighting conditions, etc. So we rendered those images using different fonts, etc., and created 10 million images of different text, right? And similarly, I think Facebook is using, they are trying to do gaze detection. And for that gaze detection application, they have a simulated environment. The eyes are, they don't take actual data. It's very difficult to get actual data, especially in the millions. So they have a simulator which for the eye, which produces different gazes based on different eye shapes, etc. So it produces the data for AI. So they are intertwined in both ways. First of all, VR and AR, they are helping to generate data for AI, but then you can also use AI to play a game in that scenario.
Yeah. So Stefano, you've been working a lot with HoloLens. How do the applications with AI and HoloLens, what do they look like?
Look, HoloLens is a device that is untethered, so it can completely work in isolation. You don't need to connect to your laptop. You don't need to connect to your mobile device. You don't need to connect to the cloud. So it just works on its own. So technically, you wouldn't need any AI capability attached to it. It just does whatever is programmed to do. And I'll show you a few things in a moment. But said that, you will miss out a lot if you just so to speak use it for augmented reality. The power of face detection or object detection in general, text to speech, speech to text, which is another capability that is available in the Azure cloud as a cognitive service, will enhance the device itself. The device, take it as put simply a piece of hardware. Then is as you said, the sky's the limit. Try to use it in the best way possible to make it more interactive, more interesting, also from an application perspective. If you don't mind, I just want to add on this simulation topic very, very briefly, because I'm based in Australia. And if you guys heard the news at the beginning of this year, which has been a fantastic year, we had the bushfires that have been impacted the countryside and have devastated the country massively. More recently, also in California. So it's actually really a global problem. And by the time this was developing and impacting the country massively, then some technologies evolved using drones, ground drones and flying drones, to look and identifying, using some models to predict the spread of fires around, using temperature, humidity, pressure, whatever contribute to the spread of fire. Now, the good thing is that after a few months, this fire extinguished, and so the technology builders didn't have enough time and data to train the model. Light another fire again just to capture the image. So and train the model. So need to simulate all these in different scenarios, in different contexts, using also a sort of augmented reality technology, where with stock images of fires, they overlaid over forest, Australian forest, to simulate an augmented reality, a virtual reality, where this fire is actually burning in different contexts, and see how they spread. In that model, they could train the model to have these drones able to capture fire. Hopefully, we will not use it again, but if it happens next year, we have technology ready to prevent and react properly.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really, I mean, that's one of the more important applications of AI. And it's good to hear about it. So I've got one more question for Satya before we move on to the next section. So Satya, we've talked about these new devices. Where can people buy it, and how can they get started?
So if you search for OpenCV AI Kit Kickstarter, then you will land on the Kickstarter page. On the Kickstarter page, there is a button that says pre-order, and you can pre-order now. And I don't remember exactly what is the time we are promising right now, but I think it will be in the January, February framework, time frame. So people will have to wait a little bit, but we are also giving a pretty good discount over the retail price. So people
should ask for money this Christmas instead of presents, and then get one in January and start hacking, right. I guess.
That's right.
And so you're offering free courses. I guess those are available on the website as well, so people can sign up.
So the free course is not yet available on the website. It will be available by the end of the year. That is, that's the first deliverable we have as part of the Kickstarter campaign pledges. And by the end of December, people will start receiving their devices, and we will release courses as well as free models.
Oh, cool, cool, awesome. So that's all we have time for today for as far as OpenCV is concerned. So if people have any further questions, I guess they can go to your website and ask the questions there, or are there any other places they can go?
They can simply email to they can simply email to kickstarter@opencv.org, and somebody will respond. Sorry, cool. Stefano.
Now, a quick question for you, actually, Satya.
Yeah.
Is the OpenCV AI kit available globally? I'm asking because HoloLens is not. For some reason, Microsoft decided to ship HoloLens to some countries first, US first, and then others, and then going global.
Yes, it is available. There are obviously some countries which are restricted, like North Korea, etc. You cannot ship there, and I think Iran is also in that category. But other than that, we ship everywhere. There is only one catch, that in some countries the duties are pretty high, something like 20-30%. So that people have to be cognizant about that. The price could be much higher than what they anticipate.
Sure,
cool.
Good to know.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as mentioned, if you have any questions for us as a global AI community, feel free to ask them on Twitter, on our live chat, on YouTube, or other places. To remember, for the best question, we're giving away a $50 gift card from Amazon. C# Corner has been friendly to us, and they promised us to give away a $50 gift card every episode, so that's good to know. And I haven't checked actually. Alicia, have you seen any pictures yet on Twitter for the Oculus Quest device?
I haven't been checking because I've been enraptured by this conversation about the AI toolkit, and I see all the interests, and I'm sure everybody who saw that episode is going to go out and get one for Christmas.
I'm pretty sure they will.
My picture will be up on Twitter soon enough. So
pretty cool. So
I can't win, but I'll participate.